All right, let's look at D here. D is probably the hardest one. I don't think it's tricky by any means, but it does take more work. And that's because my number is so large. It is 2,871. So if we look up here at the top, my list I've got going on right here doesn't get anywhere near 2,871. So I'm gonna have to use more Fibonacci numbers than I did in that first ones that we worked. So I'm just gonna come up here and figure out what the next Fibonacci numbers would be. So 89 plus 144 gives me 233. Then I'm going to add together 144 and 233 to get 377. So I'm going to keep adding until I get something that's in that, like near that 2,000 range. So I just kept adding 233, 377. Typing that in my calculator, that gives me 610. Going to keep going. I'm going to try to get down to something that's near that 2,871. Adding the next two together gives me 987. I'm going to keep going. 1,597, getting closer. And then the last one that I think we're going to have to do, adding together the 987 and the 1597 gave me 2,584. All right, that seems close to what I'm dealing with. So that's where I'm going to start with D down here. I'm going to start with 2,584. My calculator ready for these bigger numbers. So let me subtract those off, and that leaves me with 287. I'm going to get as close as I can to 287, and that is 233. Subtracting leaves me 54. As close as I can to 54 is going to give me 34. I didn't give myself enough room. So that leaves me with 20. I'm going to come up here. Let's see. As close as I can get to 20 is 13. That leaves me with 7. Whew, this one's taking a whole bunch. So as close as I can get to 7 is going to be a 5. To put it, I'll rewrite the answer just a second. And then I'm left with a 2, which is a Fibonacci number. So this was a long one. It's the same process, but the number's big, so it can get long. So it gives me that whole answer there. All right, let's look at these last two problems we've got here. So we're going back to the inductive reasoning that we looked at the beginning of our exam 1, and that's where we have a pattern. So we've set up a pattern here using Fibonacci numbers that I just have to come up with the rest of the pattern. So looking at this, I'm going to write my Fibonacci numbers up here at the top just so we can kind of see the pattern. And I'm just getting this. It's these same numbers, so you're not doing anything fancy on that at all. I'm just adding together the ones that were before. I think we're going to need to go up to 233 for these. So looking at this first one, I'm going to look at the left-hand side and the right-hand side of the problem. So I'm going to start with the left-hand side. So you can kind of see right here is the number 1, 3, 8, 21, 55. So it looks like every other Fibonacci number, like we're skipping. So I'm going to keep everything I had, and the next one, if I skip, I would be with 144. Now I'll look at the right-hand side of the problem. The right-hand side of the problem has something -1 every single time. It was 2, then 5, then 13, then 34, then 89. So it kind of looks like the thing that I skipped. So the next one would be 233. So that would be the next line in this problem. Now again, going back to my math lab, I know I've talked about it a lot in this section. My math lab in the first part is going to ask you, what is the answer to the next one? Like, what is the value? That's what they use. The value of this is 232. just typing either that in or that. Just type one of those in your calculator, you get 232. So that's the answer for part A. For part B, it's actually going to say what is the next line in the pattern. So that's when you would type in the entire thing with the equal sign. I know we get the answer and we're like, we want to type in the whole thing. Hold off for just a second. The value of it is just type in either the left or the right. And then part B is the entire answer. All right. So why don't you pause and give this second one a try. Very similar. We're just going to try to guess the pattern and see if you can write the next line in the pattern here. So go ahead and hit pause. All right, coming back from the pause, it looks like we're just moving down the Fibonacci line. So 1 and 1, then 1 and 2, then 2 and 3, 3 and 5, 5 and 8. So the next one would be 8 and 13. So 8 squared plus 13 squared. We actually can type this in our calculator, or again, we can use our patterns on our Fibonacci numbers. We were at 2, then 5, then 13, then 34, then 89. So we would be at 233 again. Or this one we could just type in our calculator and it would tell us, because we don't have to worry about that -1. So part A, what's the value of the equation is 233. Part B, we would type the entire thing in, including the equal sign.